Hi there, welcome to Games Over Coffee Consulting. People give me their games and I give feedback on their game design. My name is Devon and today we're talking about Destroy the Frame by this name. And the point of talking about this game is the same point that I have in all these episodes, and that's to help the developer think through their design and try to figure out what it is that they can do in their design to achieve what they want to achieve. So I always start out with a questionnaire. And in this case, this developer said this: my objective is to have a strategy game that's a doorway to the strategy genre, so they have to be simple and fun. I then reached out to the dev just for further clarification, and he said this: my main idea with this game was to make a game to be introduction to the genre, deck building roguelike game. The other thing I was trying to make is a non-intrusive tutorial experience, so no pop-ups or anything like that. So those were the main goals, but I don't believe I've managed to achieve them. So what exactly here is the goal of this game? If this game is trying to be an introduction to the genre, what it means is that the game itself needs to be very clearly communicated, right? The person who's playing this game needs to understand everything that's going on because they've never played a game like this before. Okay, so from the beginning of the game, the first menu is very easy to understand. I would say that's pretty much a given. Then we come to this screen. This screen is starting the build of your deck. Now, if you're someone who's not played a deck builder before, this screen may look completely foreign to you. What I believe we're doing here is letting the player know these are the cards that you have in your deck, and these are the cards that we're going to then add into them. You have a choice between 3 pairs of cards, and we're going to do this 3 times to fill up your deck. A screen like this, I feel, doesn't make any sense at all. What we're doing is we're introducing building a deck without introducing why we're building one. Now, I know that seems kind of strange, but think about Slay the Spire, because Slay the Spire is a very popular deck builder game, and it's pretty simple to understand. In the very beginning of Slay the Spire, you have a map. You come to the map first. I think one of the reasons why you come to the map first is because they introduced, one, it is a roguelike that you're going to have different branching things going on, but 2, this single icon lets you know that there's a battle. And what that means is that there's different things that happen in the game. There's random encounters, there's merchants, there's treasures, there's rest. You know, that whole key on the side there lets you know that there's different things ahead of you. So it's explaining basically everything that you're going to face in one single screen. Once we go through there, immediately we're brought to a battle. Now, this is really important because at no time have we modified or changed or upgraded anything. All we have at this moment, we clicked on an icon, now we're doing battle. And the reason why this is important is because we have to understand what the basis is before we start modifying things. So because this is a deck builder, we're going to be building the deck as we continue forward throughout the game. So we show the player what they have now, what it feels like to battle someone, and then as we go forward, then we start adding on things. And in Destroy the Frame, we have building the deck immediately. And I think that's a little too much information for the player to understand what's happening if they've never played a deck builder before. Because at this point, not only are they shown, just a bunch of cards, but they don't understand what each of the cards do. So before you even start adding stuff on, we need to understand how they work. After building the deck, then we go to this screen, which is the map screen. And I think the map screen is pretty good. However, I think one of the strange communication things here is that we have little icons that you can select at the bottom here, but they're all dancing in the same exact rhythmic motion, which can be confusing because it looks like they're all one icon, that if you select one, that you're selecting all of them at the same time, because again, they're all animating in the same exact way. I would do it a little bit more like Slay the Spire, where they have different animations. What that does is it separates each of them to let the player know that these are different icons with different things. After that, we go straight into battle. The first thing that happens in our battle is not battling, but instead it's a random event. Now, the random events are supposed to modify the field that's in front of us and somehow change the gameplay going forward. Now, because we don't know what the gameplay is yet, you know what I'm going to say? I don't want to start modifying the gameplay before I know what it is. So in this moment, for example, the opponent just put down this card, which just has a big 1 on it. So if you look at my cards, I have cards that range between 1 and 3, and they all have special properties on them, which we'll talk about in a bit. So because I've played this game before, I picked this card, which essentially gives me more power. But the only reason why I played that is because I understand some of the things that are going on here. I understand that that card that the opponent played takes away 3 attack from the card that I was going to play. Now, if this is my first time ever playing, that will make no sense to me. I do like that we have little pop-ups that has, a -3, things like that, to let us know what's happening when it happens. That's really cool. But again, all of these little texts that say, -3, -1, +1, +5, whatever, are going to modify an existing gameplay. And I know that's the point of deck builders, but if you look back at Slay the Spire, you only have 5 cards, and in those 5 cards, you only have damage and block. And the reason why that's important is because that's the simplest thing that you can do. If you instead played a card card that, had bonus effects, that had vulnerable or weakens the enemy or has a buff or something like that. Those are not things that the player understands yet. They have to understand a baseline. So just like in Slay the Spire, that's what I would want to see here, is something that's much more controlled. A battle of cards that are not random. A battle that's designed specifically to teach the player, right? To be perfectly understandable and be as simplistic as possible. That is what we're trying to do here, right? Is be simple and fun. So we got to have that simplicity built up, at least in the first battle, before we start moving on. One of the other things that I think is a little strange in this game, this has to do with the mechanic in the game that I feel like is a little bit more Marvel Snap-ish. The point of the game is to win as many battles as you can between 1 and 5. And once you've gotten all those battles won, then the total of your cards that are left on the field is counted to the right, and then you're compared the two totals. Whoever has the biggest total wins the game. And I feel like that's pretty easy to grasp, but the weird thing here is when I play a card, it instantly changes the total on the right. The weird thing about that is that that's kind of irrelevant information. Once the opponent plays a card, it changes their total immediately. Then I play my card and it changes my total immediately. Then the cards clash, do their battle, and whatever happens afterwards changes the totals again. So why do we need to know the intermediary? Why do we need to know that the total grows when we put the card down? We should only really need to know the total changes after the cards combine. The screen that happens after you win a battle is one of these. And what this does is presents you with new cards that you can then add to your deck. Now, again, if I'm someone who hasn't played this genre before, I look at these cards and I'm like, oh great, I already have those in my deck. Awesome, let's move on to the next one. But that's not what happens. You have to do it manually. And that's one of the things that's not ever said here. So I would definitely tell people that you can add these into your deck, either show them how to do it or somehow walk them through it. Now remember, you don't need to be super explicit with the rules and tutorials. I'd much rather not have any kind of text pop-ups, and you can create implicit types of tutorials for things that we talked about here. If you want your audience to be people who have never played deck builders before, and you want this game to introduce them to deck building, like I said, it's a very ambitious thing to do. It's a very tall order, but I would get very explicit with the types of things that are happening, and I would go step by step by step. I mean, explain every single little thing, and it doesn't have to be through text form. I think a lot of the design that you have already to communicate certain things is really, really good, like the targets that you have when you hover over a card, or like the outline that pops up when you hover over a card, the fact that you have a big red fist to represent attacking. These are good practices. I wouldn't say that all those things are very clear, but I would say that those are really good practices to have. I like also the idea that the cards hover and then bump into each other when they're attacking. I think that's really good visual. I feel like probably need to be made just more. For example, when you're hovering over a card and you have a certain target that shows, what that card's going to affect, those targets are color-coded, but they're not color-coded for any explicit reason. Like after analyzing the footage, then I know that red means negative, blue means positive, but I don't know that, when I'm first playing the game. And what would help that is color-coding the text, showing negative effects in red and showing positive effects in blue. Stuff like that would help correlate those two things. A lot of that type of design work and a lot of making things a lot more explicit would help communicate things to people who don't know this genre. So the next thing I want to talk about is just some of the design that's in the game. What I did was I put this game into my Discord and asked for playtesting, because that's one of the things that's on our Discord. You can join the Discord if you like, there's a link in the description, and you can help playtest games or have your game playtested also. For this one, we had 5 people playtest the game and give their thoughts. So to the dev, I tagged you in the playtesting thread. You can go to the thread and read all that stuff if you'd like. So one of the biggest things that was mentioned here in this feedback was synergy. And I know that when I played this game, there were certain times that I felt smart where I would buff myself by giving 2 cards basically just away on the field, and that made my attack much, much stronger. So I felt really cool during that part. It felt really strong. But that was kind of the only time that kind of thing happened. Because most of the cards are just affecting the attack, there's not a whole lot of variability to the game. And while that can be useful for something that's very simple in this game, it can make for a pretty stale experience. I'm not really one to talk about this kind of stuff because I'm not a great deck builder, a designer. I don't design these games and I don't play these types of games. But as far as talking about synergy and how the cards work together, it's not really my expertise. However, this YouTuber, Adam Millard, is a very well-versed deck builder person. And he made a whole video about what makes a great deck builder. That video is very good for talking about engagement and what creates good synergy in cards. If you are not this developer and you have a game of your own and you'd like to see it playtested, or you'd like me to talk about it, there's a link in the description, or you can go to gamesover.coffee and submit your game. There's also a buy me a coffee option, if you want to buy me a coffee. I'm just saying that I'm just saying the options there. So thank you so much for submitting the game to me. I hope what I've done is somewhat helpful, and please, yes, go to the Discord and talk to some of the people if you feel like you need some more information about this. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I got for today. So I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.